12 deadliest viruses in human history. Human race has been treated many times before by extinction-level infectious diseases. Some of these have been caused by bacterial infections like the Spanish flu that wiped out nearly a third of European population, but many have been caused by deadly viruses that make the coronavirus seem like a walk in the park. In today's video, we will explore the symptoms, number of infections, and death rates of the 12 deadliest viruses in human history. More than half the deadliest viruses on this list are still killing large numbers of people every year, especially the ones on the second half of this video that we still have no treatment and no cure for. And the scary thing is that many people are unaware of the infection in our bodies like a time bomb waiting to detonate any time. So take a seat, because you're about to learn how these deadly viruses are spreading among us and their possible symptoms. But before we count down to number 1, please support us by giving us a like and subscribing to our channel. Number 12. The Rabies Virus. This deadly bullet-shaped virus attacks warm-blooded animals and kills around 60,000 people every year. Rabies is often neglected since there exists a working vaccine. If you haven't been vaccinated and you're bit by an infected animal, you may still pull through, but only if you get treated immediately after being bit. However, if you don't get your vaccine right away, rabies symptoms will start in about a week or two after infection, and once severe symptoms appear, you're almost 100% sure to die within 10 days. Early rabies symptoms can be flu-like and may include fever, headache, nausea, vomiting, confusion, and an itching sensation at the site of the bite. This deadly virus starts working its way quickly from the wound through the nervous system until it reaches your brain, where it causes severe inflammation and you fall into a coma and die. Number 11. The Variola Virus. Most of us don't recognize the Variola virus for its name, but rather for the disease it causes: smallpox. This disease is a deadly illness that produces severe flu-like symptoms along with horrible rashes all over the body that can even leave us blind if the eyes are involved. Early hemorrhagic smallpox kills within days of the onset of a fever. The good news is that this virus was the first virus eradicated in the world back in the 60s. But why did this virus make our list if it was already eradicated? Aside from a case fatality rate of over 30%, which means that this virus is able to kill a third of the people it infects, what makes this one of the deadliest viruses is the sheer size of the death toll attributed to the Variola virus, which is about 500 million people during the 20th century alone. And even though this virus is in fact eradicated, there are still research labs that work on this virus, so it's entirely possible for either intentional or unintentional consequence of a vaccine-resistant strain to find its way into the population and threaten our existence worse than a giant meteor hitting the Earth. Number 10. Rotaviruses. Rotaviruses are a family of double-strained RNA viruses which cause the rotavirus disease. The symptoms include severe cases of watery diarrhea, vomiting, fever, and pain in the entire body. With a case fatality rate of only 4%, we would think that this is a rather harmless disease, but the fact is, it is highly contagious and causes around 200,000 deaths every year among children under 5. The most common cause of death attributed to rotavirus is dehydration. Even with a working vaccine already developed in the mid-2000s, rotavirus still infects millions of children around the world today and is still a likely cause of death in many underdeveloped countries. Number 9. The Ebola Virus. The Ebola virus is one of those viruses shown in many Hollywood blockbusters as the cause of uncontrollable pandemics that kill millions. This is due to the Ebola Zaire strain, which kills over 90% of those it infects. There's no vaccine, no cure, and most people who develop symptoms ultimately die. The virus is originally transmitted from animals to humans, and then we can transmit it among ourselves even after we die. The only thing that has prevented a major world crisis involving Ebola is the fact that it isn't as contagious as other viruses, so the disease spreads slowly during an outbreak. However, that doesn't mean it's not dangerous, as shown by over 10,000 deaths in the 2015 outbreak in Central and West Africa. Deadlier viruses are coming up next, and the last 5 will make you think twice about where you travel, what you touch, and whom you date. And none of the last 5 deadly viruses have a vaccine or a cure, and one in particular is spreading faster than ever before in the entire human history. Number 8. The Hantavirus. This virus produces the Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS, a disease characterized by shortness of breath and respiratory problems. It is not particularly contagious, so it's unlikely to turn into a deadly epidemic, but those unlucky to catch it have a very high 30% chance of dying only a couple of days after the first symptoms. Number 7. Influenza. What we call seasonal flu is caused by the Influenza virus. There are several types or strains of this virus, with types A and B being responsible for seasonal pandemics every year. During a normal year, influenza infects 10 to 50 million people in the US alone, sending 200,000 to the hospital and killing roughly around 0.1%. In a bad year, like during the 2017-2018 flu season, more than 900,000 people ended up in the hospital, and almost 10% of those died because of the flu. This may not seem like such a big deal, but the problem is that this virus is severely contagious, and it mutates incredibly quickly, producing new strains every year. How long will it be until a particularly dead strain is born that threatens our very existence on Earth? Number 6. The Dengue Virus. The Dengue virus is spread by the bite of an infected Aedes aegypti mosquito. It is endemic in most African and Latin American countries, and there are several known strains that can cause differently severe diseases, the worst of which is hemorrhagic dengue fever. Besides horrible pain in the entire body, severe life-threatening inflammation of the liver, and a delirium-inducing fever, this strain can cause internal and external hemorrhages that in many cases lead to death. There is no vaccine and no treatment, other than treating the symptoms themselves. Number 5. The Zika Virus. The Zika virus, codenamed Zika V, causes a similar disease to dengue fever, and is transmitted by the same mosquito, the Aedes aegypti. Symptoms include overall discomfort, severe pain in the back of the eyes, back pain, and in some cases, hemorrhages all over the body, which can ultimately lead to death. However, this virus isn't particularly deadly when compared to the others on the list. This virus poses the biggest threat to the unborn child in the mother's womb. If the mother becomes infected, it is almost certain that the baby will develop severe life-crippling malformations, of which microcephaly is the most common. No vaccine, no treatment, and symptoms can be very difficult to manage. Number 4. SARS-CoV. The early 2000s saw the appearance of the first coronavirus pandemic. It all started in 2002 when a rather famous Asian cat-like mammal called the civet transmitted a crown-like virus to humans in a province in southern China that produced a disease called Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, or SARS. The World Health Organization coined this the SARS coronavirus, or SARS-CoV. The virus quickly spread to 26 other countries, and by the end, it had infected 8,000 people and killed almost 800. This virus takes the silver medal when it comes to deadliness of coronaviruses. However, its infectiousness wasn't enough for it to go global, so the total death toll wasn't that high. No vaccine is currently available. Number 3. MERS-CoV. In 2012 and 2015, outbreaks in Saudi Arabia and South Korea of a severe respiratory syndrome hit the media, and the cause was, again, a coronavirus. Since the disease spread mostly across Middle Eastern states, the virus was called Middle East Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus, or MERS-CoV for short. While nowhere near as contagious as other coronaviruses, it holds the record of the deadliest of its kind, killing 30 to 40% of infected patients. There is currently no vaccine for MERS, and no effective treatment available for infected patients. Number 2. SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19. This is the coronavirus, As its name suggests, this is the second strain of a coronavirus to cause severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, with the first one being the cause of the 2002 epidemic. SARS-CoV-2 originated in Wuhan, China in November 2019, and is responsible for one of the worst pandemics in recent human history, the COVID-19 pandemic. Even though it's the least deadly of the three coronaviruses known to affect humans, killing roughly around 4% to 6% of infected patients in different parts of the world, as latest numbers indicated, it is incredibly far more contagious than any other coronaviruses. This has resulted in an immensely greater number of infected patients and deaths. By mid-June 2020, there were already almost 8 million people infected around the world. Over 400,000 dead, no treatment or vaccine, and an unforeseeable future. These numbers and facts alone place the SARS-CoV-2 virus high on the list of the deadliest viruses known to man. Number 1. The Human Immunodeficiency Virus, HIV. The number one deadliest virus we have had the misfortune of coming across is the Human Immunodeficiency Virus, or HIV. It is a type of retrovirus that inserts a copy of its RNA into the host's DNA. The key to its deadliness is the fact that there's no cure and no vaccine, even though it has been around for decades. The worst part is that the virus targets our immune system, so we can't even rely on our own body to fight it off. There are antiretroviral medicines that help keep the virus in check, but as soon as we stop taking them, chaos ensues in our bodies, and we're almost 100% sure to die. HIV causes a disease called acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, or AIDS, which basically destroys our immune system and makes us succumb to otherwise harmless sicknesses and infections. There are over 38 million people around the world currently living with HIV, mostly in African countries, with over 1 million of these cases reported in the US. With an estimated 140,000 people in the US alone who may have the virus but don't know it, it makes you think twice about who you share your love with. According to the World Health Organization, almost 80 million people have been infected with HIV since it began to spread decades ago, and almost half of those patients have already died, in spite of antiretroviral medicines having been around for years. Which of these 12 deadliest viruses do you think is the scariest? Do you think there is another invisible killer virus we should have included on our list? Do you know someone currently living with or recovering from any of these viruses? Join the conversation in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. This wraps up our video about the 12 deadliest viruses in human history. Thanks for watching.